On News Bike Heaven this week, Fran is with Adrian Poole, who's looking for a supermoto. We'll have another featured used bike, more legal advice and a riding tip from Paul. This is Adrian Poole. He's a proud owner of a Yamaha R1. Adrian's from Birmingham and works as a sales consultant for a fire protection company. This week he's looking for something to replace his R1 during the winter and quite fancies the idea of a supermoto.
So welcome to the show, and I have Adi with me. Now Adi, you currently have an R1, don't you?
I do.
Please tell me you're not going to get rid of that.
Definitely not. No, I love the R1.
Yeah.
It's a great bike, love it to bits. But I just need something else for winter, really.
Right.
It's less hard work to look after and a bit more practical to use in winter.
Right, so something a bit fun, with the same kind of buzz you get,
Yeah.
or a similar buzz.
Definitely, yeah.
Right, okay, so do you have a budget?
Yeah, I'm looking at spending between £5,500.
Okay, well I've got 3 bikes over here for you, one of which might blow your budget, but we'll have to see what you think about that. Got the KTM Duke, the CCM R30 and the MZ Baghira. What do you think of them looks-wise?
The KTM, it does look it looks quite flashy, a little bit futuristic at the front.
Yeah, they've got a kind of insecty look about them actually, haven't
Yeah, it does look nice. I like the look of the CCM, to be honest. That looks quite aggressive, very cutting edge.
Yeah.
I like the look of that. And the MZ looks a little bit quirky, to be honest, but I suppose the proof of the pudding's in the riding, really.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we're going to let you ride them, which is obviously why you're here.
Okay.
But before we let you loose on them, we're going to go to Richard, who's going to give you some facts and figures about these 3 bikes.
Okay, great.
OK, Adi, we'll start this week with the most expensive, KTM's 620 Duke, which is said by many to be one of the best-looking supermotos available today. The Duke takes most of its good looks from KTM's long and well-established line of motocross machines, with which they've enjoyed great success over the years. It uses a 624cc single-cylinder 4-stroke motor, which develops around 55 brake horsepower. A bit less than your own R1, but as you'll soon discover, all of the fun on this style of bike is to be had at less than 70 miles an hour. So rest assured, you won't be disappointed. This brand new bike is in the limited edition colour of adrenaline orange and comes with upside-down forks and a very neat-looking high-lift exhaust system. It is, however, way out of your budget, but you might just be tempted at £6,200. Slightly cheaper is the well-respected R30 from Lancashire bike maker CCM. The R30 now uses a Suzuki power plant taken from the Freewind model. This replaces the old Rotax unit, which was said by some to be a bit agricultural and had a notchy gearbox. No such problems anymore. The gearbox is now smooth and positive, and the motor torquey and responsive. We reckon you could have just as much fun flicking the R30 through the country lanes as you do on your current bike, the R1, and it won't take you nearly as long to clean it afterwards. Once again, this is a new model, and it's just within your budget of £5,400. But if you'd like to hang on to some of your hard-earned cash, then we can save you over £1,000 by offering you the MZ Baghira. Perhaps not quite as cutting edge in the styling department as our previous 2 bikes, but it is individual enough to get your notice down at the local bike meet. MZ are a German company, but like CCM, they use a Japanese power plant. This time it's a 660cc single-cylinder Yamaha number. In fact, there's not too much German in this bike at all. The suspension is white power and the brakes are Spanish. The overall styling, though, is very German, with a definite look of BMW's GS range at the front end. It doesn't have the same impressive pedigree as the KTM or the CCM, but there's no doubting that it offers excellent value for money. This brand new MZ Baghira, which is actually the Black Panther model, is on sale at just £4,200.
So that was Richard there with a few facts and figures. Does that tell you anything you didn't know about these bikes?
Yeah, there's a few important points there that I need to take into consideration, so yeah, it was helpful. Yeah.
Marvellous, that's what we like to hear. We're going to set you off on the Duke, because that's the most expensive, so if you want that one, that's your budget blown.
Right.
OK, so you get your helmet on.
OK, I'll see you later.
And while Lady has a little play on the KTM, here's Richard with this week's used bike review.
It's a strange fact that the more sensible your bike, the more time you'll have to spend justifying it. If you go out and buy a 200-mile-an-hour nitro-blown racetrack rocket ship for commuting 2 miles to work, all your mates will go, cool, no questions asked. If you buy yourself a bike that's just really good at being a bike, your mates will think you've gone mad. If you did decide to buy a Honda Pan-European, most of your mates would probably turn around straight away and ask if you've become a two-wheel taxi driver, a long-distance dispatchee, or maybe you've joined a roadside service or become a paramedic. But there are some compelling reasons for considering the Pan-European as a bike. That V4 1100 isn't exactly a firecracker. It's more about low-down performance, gentle power, it just eases on. It doesn't make the most exciting of noises, though. There's huge accommodation on board for you and your passenger, no matter how big she or he might be. Fans of the machine will tell you it is surprisingly agile. For such a big machine, it'll flick round corners no problem. The centre of gravity is relatively low, though not as low as some. It doesn't feel big, heavy and clumsy. It just looks it. This all-enclosing plastic might not be to everyone's taste. In fact, I don't think it's to anyone's taste. Even the real devoted followers of the Pan, and yes, there is a Pan-European fan club, will agree it's probably never going to be a real beauty of a bike, but you don't buy it for its looks. This all-enclosing plastic may not look brilliant, but it's practical. I mean, it keeps the muck off. Pan-Europeans are known for covering enormous mileages. They're one of the few bikes where going around the clock is entirely possible. Even with big miles on, they'll still sell, so good is their reputation for longevity. It's actually supremely easy to hustle through traffic. It's so stable, it goes exactly where you pointed and it stays where you last aimed it. That means dicing with the traffic is a doddle, even on a big bike like this. The new Pan-European looks better than this. It's faster than this and it goes around corners better than this. It is, in fact, better than this. But that's not bad news at all, because it means that used examples of this model will be coming onto the market at good prices. But don't expect a flood of bargain basement Pans. People tend to hang on to these bikes for years, and when they do finally sell them, they hold their value very well. You'll still pay about 5,900 quid for something like this R-Plater with 21,000 miles up. Bear in mind, that's hardly a run-in, though, for a Pan-European, and when you do come to sell it, you'll get more money back than if you bought another bike. So maybe the Pan-European could become your friend for life.
Well, thank you, Richard, and I'm pleased to say that AD is back with the KTM in one piece. What did you think?
I absolutely love it. The power delivery, everything was similar in some ways to the R1, dead down low. It was torquey, mid-range was great, handle's superb with the road tyres on it, and I love it, and I'm probably more likely to keep my licence a little bit longer on something like this as well.
I know what you're saying. But you probably wouldn't do the same amount of miles, would you?
No, it's not a bike for doing a lot of mileage on. It's probably 2 or 3 hours on a Sunday or nipping out.
A little toy, a winter toy is what you're wanting, isn't it? Now, looks-wise?
Looks-wise, I do like the looks.
Yeah.
It's well put together. It is quality build. I
It's
like
a
the
weird-looking
wheels.
thing, though, isn't it?
It looks great from the back. I like the way the pipe's upswept under the seat. I'm not too sure about the front. It does look a little bit futuristic at the front.
Yeah.
The light cowls, not really.
It kind of grows on you. When I first started, I thought, oh, I don't like that. And I thought, well, now do I? So it's...
It is a little bit quirky looking, but it is a great bike. I love it.
Well, it blows your budget, though. I mean, with £700.
It is a lot of money, over £6,000 for what essentially is going to be a toy, really. So.
But if you love it, what's 700 quid?
Well, we'll ride the other two and we'll see what we think.
Well, we're going to set you off on the CCM next.
Okay.
So if you want to... Have you ever ridden one of these before, Bella?
I've not ridden one, but I've got a friend who's actually owned a CCM and he raves about it, so...
Right, so you can compare
That's what all the
notes
fuss
with
is
him.
about.
Brilliant. You going to get kitted up?
Okay.
So while AD sees if the R30 is the bike for him, we're over to Paul, our legal eagle, who's intent on keeping you on the right side of the law.
Now this might look like a prop from the film The Fly, in fact it does, but it's not. This is a headlamp cover, Chris, for a VFR 800. A dark or smoked headlamp cover. Is that illegal or legal?
Tricky one, that. I don't think it's going to change the colour of the light, but I have to see it obviously with it fitted and the light coming out. But the problem I see is it diffusing the original beam coming out of the manufacturer's headlight.
Right.
You know, they're all designed with refraction in the headlight.
Yeah.
And that raises the question of what happens with insurance cover.
Okay.
If you're in a bump and they investigate it, especially at night, something like that, that could leave you wide open to no insurance cover.
Of course it could, yeah. Right, well so that's not as cut and dry because it's only smoked that. Well, we can buy them for 20 quid, but you can also buy red ones, blue ones, green ones, purple ones, and you'd see them on the road.
Yeah, all illegal.
Totally illegal?
Yeah, lens covers, bulbs, if it's not white or amber to the front, it's illegal.
Right, only white or amber to the front.
Yep.
What about to the rear of a motorcycle?
Amber or red for your brake light, obviously.
Yeah.
Potentially white if you've got a reversing light, and that's it again.
Right.
No blues, greens.
It's
anything
illegal
like
to run with a white light on the back though, isn't it, to be going forward?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, okay. Well, that's interesting, isn't it? Because, I say, if you have a bump with that, anything an insurance company can get to wriggle out of whatever, you're leaving yourself wide open. It's totally illegal.
As soon as you take your bike away from standard,
Yeah.
then you're potentially not running with cover.
Right.
And you should really ask your insurance company, for instance, if you fit an aftermarket can or you change the colour or whatever, you should say what you've done and is it still okay?
Right. So, coloured lamps, I know no.
Definitely.
Don't do it.
So that's it for part 1. Join us in part 2 and we'll see what Adi thinks to the CCM and we'll set him off on the MZ. And Paul will be back to give you some riding tips. See you after the break. Welcome back to Used Bike Heaven. Now, if you were with us before the break, you'll know we're with Adi, who currently has an R1, but is looking for a winter toy. So we sent him out on the KTM Duke. You like that? Nothing wrong with that at all. Then we sent Adi out on the CCM R30. What did you think to it?
It's a great bike, loved it. It is very similar to the KTM. It's probably, to be honest, a little bit more rough around the edges.
Yeah.
It's a little bit more cutting edge, a little bit more motocrossy, really.
You expect that when you look at it, really, don't you?
Yeah, it looks aggressive, the styling's great, and it is really, it's an eye catcher, it's lovely.
Is it as torquey then?
The motor's very strong, so I believe this has got the Suzuki motor in, as opposed to the Rotax motor that they used to use.
Yeah.
And the motor pulls from everywhere in the rev range, it's great down low.
I would imagine the gears and everything would be.
Yeah,
a
the
lot
gearbox
smoother.
is great. I believe the old gearbox was a little bit clunky, but this is it's great. The styling's great, it rides great. The KTM's probably a little bit softer than this. I think they've softened this up for the road, really.
Yeah. Yes, it has that motocrossy feel,
Yeah,
doesn't it? Definitely.
it's just a little bit rough.
A bit raw.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
that's what you're looking for, I think, in a supermoto. So yeah, I love it.
And it's within your budget.
Right, well that helps.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah,
So,
I like to try and keep you within your budget.
Right.
Yeah, but I'd always like to throw a spanner in the works. But it's 54, so you've got 100 quid to spare.
Right.
Fantastic. You're a very easy man to please, I might say.
Well, I just really love the CCM.
Yeah.
As soon as I got on it, really, it was just
Felt right.
yeah, it's just really easy to ride. It's dead forgiving. It's a great riding position.
Comfort.
it's
We've
just
not
great.
really covered comfort.
Well, a supermoto, it's a good ride because you're upright.
Yeah.
You can see where you're going. It's
Yeah.
a lot different to the R1 where you pitch forward.
Yeah. You wouldn't do the same amount of miles, though, would you, on a supermoto?
No, I would have thought a couple of hours is
Tops.
is tops, and you're probably only going to get maybe 80, 90 miles to a tank anyway, so
Yeah.
you're not going to be able to do a great amount of distance, but that's not really what I'd buy one for anyway.
No. Well, don't judge yet, because we've still got to set you off on the MZ. Have you ever ridden an MZ before?
I've never ever ridden an MZ, I must confess, no,
Right.
so it should be interesting.
It should be interesting.
Yeah.
Well, you go and get kitted up then.
Okay,
And
I'll
tell
see
me what
you
you think. So our lady takes the MZ for a spin. We're over to Paul with this week's riding tip.
Lots of motorcycle accidents happen because the car driver simply doesn't see us on our bikes, and that's not always the car driver's fault. As bikers, there are lots of things that we can do to make ourselves more visible and so give ourselves a better chance of survival. So here we have an example of just that. We have a T-junction here, lane coming up to a main road. So Mr. Car Driver comes along here, stops here, and he looks both ways. The problem you can see is pretty obvious. There are trees overhanging here and it's not easy to see out along the main road. So if a bike should come round hugging the curb really close to the left-hand side of the road, we're not going to see him sat at this junction until he's virtually right upon us. Just take a look at this. So he was very close then, he was well into the left-hand side of the road. We're sat here in a car. If we'd decided to pull out, we'd have committed and it'd have been too late. The bike would have been very close to us. There is a much better solution. Now you can see the difference there, can't you? The rider came round that bend or came along the road, approached the junction, way over on the right-hand side of the road. I saw him a good 10 or 15 yards earlier. So there's a good example of a rider making it much easier for a car driver to see him. Of course, this has a big advantage for the rider, also because the further to the right he can position his machine as he's approaching the junction on the left, the earlier he will be able to see into it. Counter-steering. What is counter-steering and what does it do? Well, we've read about it in all the riders' manuals and all the racers talk about it. It's simply pushing the bar the wrong way, turning the wrong way if you like. Counter means the opposite, doesn't it? So if I push on the right, although my wheel is turning slightly to the left, the bike will actually go to the right, incredibly. If I push left, it will go to the left. Very, very effective. I will attempt to demonstrate. So here we are in a straight line, we're in first gear, nice and slow, the bike is well balanced, and if I push on the right-hand bar, you see what happens. The bike flicks itself quite severely, very effectively to the right, so if I now push on the left, the reverse will apply. So you can see just how effective it is. Push on the right, the bike will go right. Push on the left-hand bar, the bike will go left. And I'm only going very slow. The faster I was to go, the more effective it would be and the more flicky it would be. So push left to go left, push right to go right. That's all that counter-steering is. It's no mythical art, no black art. And if you're not sure, find yourself a big empty space, a big car park somewhere and have a little go. And you'll be surprised just how manoeuvrable your machine can be.
Well, thank you, Paul. And Adi is back with the Baghiera. So, Adi, what did you think to the MZ?
Yeah, I enjoyed it. It's a good bike. It's very different from the KTM and the CCM. They're a little bit more cutting edge. They're really thoroughbred supermotos, really. This is more probably a bike that would suit either a new rider or somebody who wants a commuter.
It's £2,000 cheaper than the KTM. Right. And obviously nearly £1,000 cheaper than the CCM.
Yeah, it's a lot of bike for the money, to be honest. For £4,200, it's a great bike. I say if you've got somebody really who's just starting out in biking, a new bike, or somebody's coming back to biking, it'd be an ideal first bike.
Yeah.
It's very forgiving, very neutral,
yeah.
Dead easy to ride.
What about the power?
Yeah, you know, it still pulls well.
Yeah, 'cause it's a Yamaha engine.
Yes.
So it's not, you know, it's a good engine.
Yeah, it's great. The power's okay throughout the range. Obviously, it's not quite as got as much go as the KTM and the CCM.
Yeah.
But yeah, I enjoyed riding it.
Yeah.
But it's just a little bit soft, really.
Yeah. Comfort-wise.
It's very comfortable.
Yeah.
You could probably spend a little bit more time on this than you could the CCM and the KTM. It'd be great over distance, and that's why I think it'd be a great first bike for somebody.
Absolutely, get them into it. Yeah. Now, looks-wise, I like a black bike, but I do feel it's a little bit plasticky.
Yeah, but all three are really a little bit plasticky, because that's what you get with a supermoto.
That's it, isn't it?
But
yeah,
the styling, it's not a bad looking bike, to be honest.
No, I mean, I think MZs have come on in leaps and bounds, haven't they?
Yeah. The last couple of years, they seem to have, definitely with this range, with the supermotos, they seem to have come a long way. Yeah. Especially with the Yamaha engine, I think that's helped a lot with reliability. So.
So you wouldn't poo-poo this bike then?
Definitely not. It's a great package, especially for the money. £4,200, it is a lot of bike.
Yeah.
It's a great Yamaha motor. It does look the part as well. So yeah, I'd definitely consider it.
Oh, you're going to consider it. Right, well, OK. So we know what you think to the MZ. Cast your mind back to the KTM. Good and bad points.
The good points, it was great to ride. It was torque, it was powerful. It's a great riding position again. And you can tell it's a thoroughbred. KTM have got a great racing pedigree.
Together, aren't they? Yeah.
And it is put together very well. Its build quality is excellent. I'm not too sure about the looks, to be honest. Probably a little bit too quirky.
Still not grown on you yet.
The front's probably a little bit too futuristic.
Okay.
But it's still a great bike.
Right.
Loved it.
CCM, good and bad points.
CCM, good points. It looks great, as you can see. And it's just a great bike to ride. From the minute I jumped on it, it was just fun. It was great.
Bad
motor's
points?
Great. Bad points. To be honest, I can't think of any right now.
Bit raw if you're doing lots of miles.
Yeah, probably 2 hours is probably enough. Couple of hours on a Sunday, but that's like you don't really buy one for that. I can't really think of anything that negative to say about it.
Get the R1 out, don't you, if you're going on a long blast?
Yeah, I've got the luxury of having the R1 out, but it does everything that I'm looking for. It's,
well,
it's a great
don't give me too much information. Have you made your mind up?
More or less, yeah.
Okay, well, don't tell me anything yet, because you're going to go to Richard, who's going to give us a recap.
Okay.
OK.
Well, AD, will you be tempted to go way over budget and buy the KTM Duke at 6,200 quid? As you said, it's a quality machine, but perhaps for you it just lacks that aggressive edge. No such problem with CCM's R30. This is the bike which at £5,400 put a huge smile on your face, and you seemed quite taken with its aggressive styling. Or maybe you'll go for the cheapest of this week's trio and buy the MZ Baghira. At just £4,200 you could save a few bob, but could you learn to live with its looks, which you did describe as rather quirky? AD, the decision is yours.
So that was Richard with the recap. Which one is it going to be?
I think it's definitely going to be the CCM.
Right, OK. I thought you were going to say the KTM for a minute there.
It was close, but to be honest, the CCM, it's raw, it's aggressive, it's exactly what I'm looking for. It's similar to the R1 in a lot of ways, but then again, it's very
Completely different, yeah.
But it still gets the blood pumping, and
You wanted fun.
yeah, and that's exactly what it is.
Exactly.
It's a real fun bike to ride.
It's within your budget as well.
That's another slight factor, but to
Deciding
be
factor.
honest, I think if I'd got £7,000 to spend, I think I'd still buy the CCM.
Well, that's good. Well, I didn't tell you this before, but we have actually featured this on a previous programme, and the gentleman actually chose this bike as well, so it's obviously a winner.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me, it's a great bike.
Yeah, well, it's just fun. The world has gone supermoto mad.
I'm not surprised.
Well, that's fantastic. I'm glad you found what you were looking for.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you very much
Thank
for coming
you.
to see us. So, Adi has found his winter toy, and we'll see you next week for some more used bike heaven. Do you know this R1 that you're not going to use over winter?
Yeah.
Can I borrow it?
I'll pop it round when it needs cleaning.
I'm not cleaning it.
On News Bike Heaven next week, we'll once again be helping someone to find their perfect bike. We'll have more legal advice, another riding tip, and of course there'll be another featured used bike.